Hi guys, and welcome to my channel where everything is about comic book drawings. My name is Dr. Rocke and today I will show you how to draw buildings in a one-point perspective. Don't forget to subscribe if you're into comic book drawings. But now, let's get a piece of paper. Okay guys, first some basics. What is one-point perspective? It's actually quite simple. First, we need a horizon line. And there is our vanishing point. Then we draw some extra lines like this. They all go through the vanishing point. And now we can use these lines to create a three-dimensional shape. Just like this. Ta-da! That's one-point perspective. Could be a house. But now we want to do this properly on an actual comic book piece of paper. We start with our horizon line and define where the vanishing point should be. Then we start to draw a million lines, just like that. Make sure to not draw these lines through the vanishing point, otherwise it will be a very dark area. That could turn out to be a problem when you want to lighten it down with the eraser later. I learned that from David Finch. When done with these lines, we continue with our grid with horizontal lines, parallel to our horizon line. They should be quite narrow. And about the same space between these lines should divide the vertical lines we will draw right now. This is quite a lot of work, but when done properly, this grid is a huge help for everything that comes after. Make sure to use a hard pencil for this. 2H or 3H will be great. When the grid is finished, we lighten it down with an eraser. And now we can start with some simple shapes for our buildings already. It's best to start from the bottom of the page and also with the foreground. The buildings that are in front should be drawn first to make sure that the main lines from the buildings behind the ones in the front do not make a total mess of lines. Here you can watch me drawing in the first row of windows already. But before we continue with the main drawing, there's something I need to show you on an extra piece of paper. Let's say this is our house, and now we want to do the foreshortened wall to the vanishing point. And since we're not architects, we will eyeball this. And what's very important, most of us would tend to do this line too long, because this should just be like that. Very, very small. And the windows on this side would just be lots and lots of lines, because they're so narrow from this point of view. And just to show you what a lot of us would do, it's like this. When you make this one too big, it works as well, but now this building would be huge. So take extra care of not doing these too long. This one's better. And another example with a very important tip. Let's say that this is our house. This is the roof. And for the roof, we need a lot of parallel lines for all the stuff that's going on the roof. And for that, it might happen that you make the mistake I did sometimes when I drew buildings like that. I just took a ruler and did a parallel line like this. So this is parallel to this one. Doesn't look too bad on the first glance, but actually you need to take the ruler and measure it from the vanishing point right here. And then we can go there and you'll see there's a big difference actually. I will show it to you in inks. You can see this line is about 2 millimeters higher than the other one, so that would have been wrong. And the worst part about that, if you're doing one line wrong and then you build on this line, the whole building will look wrong. Extremely wrong. No! And what you also have to be aware of, let's say that this will be our windows. Always measure from the vanishing point. You can see this looks right, and when you measure them, this is like 22 millimeters and this is 29 millimeters. So this line is way longer than this line. And I'm sure there would be some mathematical way to explain this, but I just eyeballed that. And also, when you want to draw in the next window, you can't take the same distance like here, because when you would do, this is about a centimeter, when you would do it like here, when you do it here, I guess you would see instantly, doesn't fit. It's too narrow, because it's coming towards us. So this one needs to be about here, I would say. And this is a thing you just need to try out and eyeball and maybe use a ruler. But you can see what I'm getting at. Now it looks about right. And when you draw a window like this, make sure it's not flat. So this, an extra line, and so it's getting three-dimensional. And then you can draw in maybe one of these, where you can open the window, make a shadow underneath. You can also shadow out this area. And all of a sudden it looks way better. And if it's an older building, you can do some sort of frame around there. Also looks very lovely. And even this line needs to be in perspective. Not just parallel to this one, but taken from the vanishing point. And then it's right. So this distance will be bigger than this distance. And also, saying right here needs to be more broad than this one. And since this is a frame, it also needs to have a little shadow here, because we want it to stand out. And with just some thicker lines, you can see, looks really cool instantly. But now back to the drawing. When the first row of windows is correct, you can use a ruler to define all the other windows downstairs, so to say. And to find out how far apart the windows should be, I do a quick sketch of a figure standing there, looking out of the window, and so I know where the floor of this story should be. And from there on, I define the thickness of the concrete from the ceiling. Add the distance from the edge of the other windows to the roof, and just like that, we know where our windows need to be placed. And here you can see again how I use the ruler so that every line ends up in our vanishing point. Very important. And the more love you will show your drawing with some playful details, the more you will be rewarded in the end. Okay, so I'm done sketching in the first house. That was already a lot of work. And now I will use a 0.2 fine liner already to trace the most important outlines, so I can erase everything else properly, because I want to show you how this is supposed to look. And after doing all these outlines, we can define all the shadows and bring this thing to life. So, let's do that. You can also do everything with a ruler. Looks more accurate. But done like this, it gets a more organic feel. For a very modern city, I would recommend to use a ruler all the time though. Besides the organic look, you will be way faster without a ruler, of course, especially with all those details. But I would say that's personal preference. Do whatever you think fits best for your city or drawing of the building. Now you can see everything properly, but it still looks very lifeless. So let's do some shadows and some hatching lines, and also a lot of lines from the windows and all that stuff. But you'll see in a second. I will start off with my Furinosuke brush pen from Tombow. These Tombow pens are perfect for this stage of the drawing. You can do a quite thick line or a very thin line with the same pen. And still it is quite easy to control it. And if you're pursuing an organic look like I do in this drawing, the Tombow pen might be your best choice, because like I just said, you have great control over it, because the tip is very hard, and at the same time you can vary the lines so easily from thick to thin, almost like a brush. You can see it's already starting to look better. And now I will use my 0.1 fine liner from Micron to do some hatching lines and some details. I will use some simple rendering lines for the wall. I will try not to overdo them, but just so there's a little bit of life in the facade. Break it up a lot. When you do it like this, it looks like a structure from an old facade. Not the Dark Ages, but you know what I mean. Old enough. You can see I only do vertical lines, and some parallel lines next to the windows. They make the difference. That's nice. And this is supposed to be a metal roof, and I will do a similar thing with that. More straight lines, but still quite similar to the ones on the facade. So that's done, which brings us to one of the absolutely most important things of it all. The windows. They need to have reflections. So now you could go ahead and do a reflection like this. Looks very nice. That's a nice way to do a window, but I think it's even cooler to blacken out some of the windows and let some of the buildings from the opposite side of the street reflect on the windows. And the reflections I will do are like this. There will be some of the windows will just be blackened out. This will all be black. I will do this with the brush pen later. And some of them will stay shiny. And those shadows represent the other buildings from around the city, which are reflecting in the windows. You'll see it looks pretty cool. And it's a way more professional approach than these things. They are okay though. You can do them, no worries. But you'll see this looks even better. The lower you get, the more dark areas you should do. Because at the lower floors, there is not as much light coming through the skyscrapers or whatever than on the upper floors. Now that's a big difference, don't you think? The last thing to do now is to add some different structure in these little fields, because they should be a little bit different than these. I don't know the English word actually, but it'll look good, you'll see. This is just a little detail and a little bit of a different structure, but it really mixes things up greatly. And the little Chinese food sign or whatever this is makes it look like there are actually living people around. Those little details, they make the difference, I guess. And here we have our first house. And I guess we covered the most important things you need to know already. But now it's time to do a lot of other buildings right here. We will also start out with some simple shapes and work our way through all them details. But for that we will turn on some music.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick. All the boys stare, can't help it, it's a habit. Clothes that she wears, short skirt and a jacket. I just wanna get her all alone on a mattress. I just wanna have it, I just gotta have it. Rumors all around say her body is fantastic. All natural, not a piece of fur is plastic. Head to her toes, yeah, they say that she's a latch. Yeah, the whispers all around say she has a reputation. Don't believe it till I see it, so I want a demonstration. And I've always learned it better with a hands-on education. So I need a private session if you get what I am saying. And they say that she's not easy, no, she's really complicated. But that only makes it better, and it's got me so fixated. And I'm not the type to wait around, I've never hesitated. But she's got me captivated.
And we are done with our background drawing. A whole lot of buildings in one-point perspective. The older buildings in the foreground are a lot of work because they need way more details than the skyscrapers in the background. But for my taste they make the difference, because I really like those. There's so much life in them, and I did all of those without a ruler. I only used the ruler for the background skyscrapers. If you take a closer look, you can see this is the reflection of this tower in here. And here I reflected some trees. They would stand like here in this area, and this reflects another skyscraper, but mostly I did just some random shapes which work well as well. And you could do all of this without the whole grid, but it makes things easier. But still, you could just draw a horizon line, define a vanishing point, mine was right here, and then just use the ruler for all the buildings. Works as well. Looks really nice, but also was a lot of work, and a lot of boring work, to be honest. But I also have to say, this is really a big piece, 11 by 17 inch, that's quite a lot of work for buildings. If you would have to draw a lot of buildings on a background on just one panel, it's way less work, of course. Obviously, the smaller the drawing, less work it is. But anyway, I'm glad I'm done with this. Can't wait to add a character at some point, maybe at my next video. But that's it for today, and I hope you learned something. If you did so, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the post notifications, so you won't miss out on any of my future videos and tutorials. And now I would like you to watch this video. That's where I show you how to draw quick and easy backgrounds. Really a good video, really try it out. You can make your characters pop out really good with all them backgrounds. They do not take as much time as this one. So, see you there, my friends.